Situation Room. Aaron Burnett out front starts right now.
Out front next, just in, new photos of Vice President Mike Pence and his family hiding from rioters on January 6th, obtained by ABC News tonight. As CNN learns, the January 6th committee will argue that Trump's efforts to get Pence to overturn the election, quote, directly contributed to the insurrection. Plus, she just flipped a House seat in the Texas special election, and she's promoted QAnon on social media. Who is Maya Flores, the newly elected Latina Republican? And the White House sending another $1 billion to Ukraine. How much more will the U.S. send? I'll ask John Kirby with the National Security Council. Let's go out front. And good evening, I'm Aaron Burnett. Out front tonight, pressure campaign. The January 6th Select Committee revealing tonight it will make the case tomorrow that Donald Trump's pressure on Mike Pence to overturn the election, quote, directly contributed to the deadly insurrection. According to committee aides, the hearing will focus on Trump's relentless efforts to convince his vice president to unilaterally subvert the election. Those efforts happening behind closed doors, on Twitter, and on the airwaves.
Mike Pence, I will tell you right now, I'm not hearing good stories. I hope that our great vice president comes through for us. He's a great guy. Of course, if he doesn't come through, I won't like him quite as much.
All of that despite the lawyers in the White House counsel's office telling Trump directly, specifically, and clearly that Pence could do no such thing. He didn't have the authority. And aides also say that the hearing will include new material about Pence's whereabouts on the day of the insurrection. So on that front, I want to show you this. New images obtained by Jonathan Karl of ABC News of Pence on that day. This photo, according to Karl, was taken just moments after Trump's supporters entered the Capitol. You see Pence sitting across from his daughter. His wife is closing the curtains, reportedly afraid that the attackers would see her and her family. And then, in the next image, Pence can be seen with his daughter after returning to the Capitol to work on a speech that he would give when Congress reconvened to certify the election of Joe Biden. It comes as the January 6th committee releases new video of a tour led by Republican Congressman Barry Loudermilk of Georgia. Now, this tour has sort of become a focal point in recent days. It took place on the day before the riot, January 5th. I want to show you the footage, and I want you to pay close attention to the man you see taking pictures of the staircase. See him right there in the front? Okay. And then in these clips, also, same man taking pictures of various hallways, tunnels, and security checkpoints. So according to the January 6th committee, that man marched to the Capitol less than 24 hours later. And in one piece of the video, the committee says the man can be heard making threatening comments about a number of Democratic leaders.
There's no escape, Pelosi, Schumer, Nadler. We're coming for you. We're coming in like white on rice for Pelosi, Nadler, Schumer, even you, AOC. We're coming to take you out. We'll pull you out by your hairs. How about that, Pelosi?
Okay, this obviously, the guy taking the photo saying that, being on the tour with Loudermilk the day before the insurrection, does appear to be at odds with the findings by Capitol Police, who said in a statement yesterday, and I quote, "There is no evidence that Representative Loudermilk entered the U.S. Capitol with this group on January 5th, 2021. We train our officers on being alert for people conducting surveillance or reconnaissance, and we do not consider any of the activities we observed as suspicious." Also tonight, another Trump ally, Steve Bannon, suffering a major loss in court. A federal judge rejected Bannon's efforts to dismiss the criminal case against him for defying the January 6th Select Committee subpoena. In a moment, I'm going to speak to January 6th Committee member Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren. But first, I want to begin with Manu Raju, who is out front on Capitol Hill. And Manu, let's start here. What more are you learning about what we can expect from the public hearing that the committee will present for all of us to see tomorrow?
Yeah, well, committee aides talked to reporters this afternoon about exactly what to expect. We can expect to hear about how this theory that Donald Trump and his closest allies pushed, that somehow that Vice President Mike Pence overseeing the certification of the electoral results on January 6, 2021, could have taken this unprecedented move, this extra constitutional move to overturn the will of the electorate, how that theory came to shape and how Donald Trump pushed that theory. Then the committee is going to look at what exactly happened on January 6th, the danger that Mike Pence faced, and tying that all to Donald Trump's rhetoric and his actions. Now, there will be live witness testimony. Greg Jacob, who was a former counsel to Vice President Mike Pence, will be there testifying, as well as Michael Ludwig, who is former federal judge, an informal advisor to Mike Pence, also will be discussing. Now, the committee, these hearings will be part of a number of other hearings that will take place through the course of June, seven-part series that they're going to look at a conspiracy that they're alleging Donald Trump was behind in pushing to overturn the election. The question, though, that the committee is still grappling with is how far to go into assert that Donald Trump committed a crime and whether the Justice Department itself should investigate and prosecute Donald Trump. Our colleagues have learned tonight that Liz Cheney, the vice chairman of the committee, is a leading voice pushing for a potential referral to the Justice Department of Donald Trump. Other committee members say it's simply not necessary. It's an issue they will debate at a later time, but all of which pointing to the new evidence that they are planning to present tomorrow and also in the hearings to come.
All right, Manu, thank you so much. And I want to go now, as promised, to a member of the House January 6th committee, the Democratic Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren. And Congresswoman, I appreciate your time. I want to start again with these new photos obtained by John Carl over at ABC News of Vice President Pence taken after rioters entered the Capitol. What do these photos tell you about that day that the public perhaps at this point doesn't know?
I think the public probably is not aware of how close a call this was. The rioters came very close to capturing the vice president, and I think there's very good evidence that they would have done harm to him, perhaps even killed him. So this was a close call.
I mean, it is pretty incredible. Are you going to be presenting some of that so people understand that literally they I mean, I know we heard them say hang Mike Pence, but that was indeed truly literal from the evidence you have?
Well, there's evidence there, and frankly, there's the Department of Justice is also pursuing cases about, some of the more violent extremists there. So we've got a lot of information. This was not a friendly crowd. This was a mob. Well, look what they did to the Capitol police officers, the violence they inflicted on them.
So I want to turn to the video that your committee released. This is the new video of Congressman Loudermilk giving that tour. And I showed there that man at the front here. He's taking pictures of the stairs, and then he took pictures of several other locations. Do you have evidence that the man in the video you released, I know you said he went to the rally the next day. Is he one of those who actually breached the Capitol himself or helped someone else to do so?
He's a guy who threatened violence against Speaker Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Jerry Nadler, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And, I'm not going to get into what the DOJ's business is. But, we had asked Representative Loudermilk, we didn't accuse him of anything. We asked him to come in and talk to us about this tour, which he has not done even yet. And as you can see from the video, we were going to go over the video with him since he has refused to come in. We released it and he can look at it now. But you can see that this rioter was there the day before with the representative, and he was taking pictures of things that tourists aren't usually very interested in, taking pictures of the stairwell up to the Ways and Means Committee, where later the next day, members were sheltered in place, taking pictures of the tunnel between the Rayburn building and the Capitol, where the next day I was evacuated through that tunnel. And we also know that the extremists were compiling maps of the tunnels and the buildings before January 6th. And just today, there was a filing in one of the Proud Boy cases about their plans to occupy not only the Capitol, but the House office buildings to get their way and how they were going to do that. So this is a concern.
And as you point out, the photos that he was taking are not photos tourists would take. Of a random stairwell. It's not one of the big grand ones, right? You can see it's one of the internal ones. And I asked that in the context of the Capitol Police, Congresswoman. As you know, they've cleared Congressman Loudermilk, and specifically when it comes to this incident, this tour, the police chief said they reviewed the security footage and they determined it didn't show any suspicious activities or anything consistent with a reconnaissance tour.
Well, they also said that they didn't see any video of the rioter. I guess they didn't know he was a rioter the next day, taking pictures of the tunnels. And you can see in the video that, in fact, he was. I've gone through that.
So they just haven't, you think they just didn't see this security footage?
I have no idea. I was surprised by the letter because if you look at the video, you can see with your own eyes what was happening. It was not reflected in the letter from the Capitol Police.
No, it certainly wasn't. Again, I keep showing this because I just want people to understand. The stairwell he's taking a picture of, whatever he's doing there, that's just not a stairwell you would take a picture of, this sort of thing, the entryway. It's just not what you would do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the back entrance to the Ways and Means room, the big room. And the Ways and Means Committee room is where, 100 members of Congress sheltered in place on January 6th.
So the Senate Judiciary Ranking Member Chuck Grassley, Congresswoman, dismissed the taped testimony that your committee showed from former Attorney General Bill Barr, right, where he said that President Trump was detached from reality, that it was crazy, all the things that he said about the election being rigged. I want to play some of what Senator Grassley said about that to Manu.
I think that this January 6th thing that you're talking about now, bringing all this stuff up, is pretty much an effort on the part of the Democrats to cover up the bad economic policies, inflation, high gas prices, and everything like that. And I don't know what they're going to accomplish because we got 800 people arrested.
Your response to Senator Grassley?
Well, that's pretty sad. It's a bipartisan committee, and we are doing the job that was assigned to us, which is to uncover all of the facts and present it to the American people. And also we will come up with legislative recommendations. Obviously, there are things of concern going on in the country, inflation, and we are passing bills to deal with that, other issues. But if we don't have a functioning democracy, then what's our future? That's pretty important.
And it certainly is. Congresswoman, I want to ask you one other thing before we go, just about the Capitol Police and what their sort of their motive could be in putting out that statement. Obviously, as you point out, right, Capitol Police members died or were injured in this attack.
Right.
But yet they put out the statement saying that they don't see anything problematic about that video the day before. What do you think the motive is? Is it that they're not open to, whether they may have also made mistakes the day before, or that they, maybe should have seen something they didn't see, or could it be something else? Do you know?
I have no idea whether it's a competence issue or what, but it's not accurate. And as you can see with your own eyes from the video, it's what they said was not accurate.
Yeah, it certainly appears that way. Congresswoman Lofgren, I appreciate your time. I always do. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. And next, the Fed raising interest rates, saying the U.S. will have a, quote, soft landing, not a recession. Well, that is not what economists say. And our next guest, a top economic analyst, is going to explain why she disagrees. Plus, the first Mexican-born woman now on her way to Congress, a Republican who's pro-Trump, anti-abortion, flipping a crucial seat in Texas. Is this a major warning sign for Democrats? Plus, Yellowstone National Park cut off by record flooding, roads destroyed, buildings swept away. For the national park now be closed for the summer season.
In this market, you'll find Fisher Investments is different than other money managers.
Different how? Aren't we all just looking for the hottest stocks?
Nope. We use diversified strategies to position our clients' portfolios for their long-term goals.
But you still sell investments that generate high commissions for you, right?
No, we don't sell commission products. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in our clients' best interest.
So when do you make more money? Only when your clients make more money?
Yep, we do better when our clients do better. At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different.
Once upon a time, before Jill said yes, she learned she had IBS-C and could treat it with Linzess. That's why some things helped, but her constipation with belly pain would often return. Maybe there was another way, or something left to learn. When her doctor connected the belly pain, discomfort, and bloating to IBS-C, it made sense to Jill. So did learning that she could treat it with a once-daily pill. And that's why she said yes to adding Linzess. Linzess is not a laxative. It helps you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and is proven to help relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Could your story also be about IBS-C? Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn how AbbVie and Ironwood could help you save on Linzess.
I'm Nate Boyer. I served as a Green Beret. The first time I heard about Colin Kaepernick, I thought the guy hated America. I chose to do an open letter to Colin, and Colin ended up reaching out. He said, "Would you kneel with me?" I told him I can't do that, but I would stand next to him. We don't have to always like how people choose to express their freedoms, but we were both willing to just have a conversation. That's what freedom of speech is, you know, the right to speak out. That's what we fought for.
Dad told me he's back into old hobbies, but it looks like he's picked up new habits for his type 2 diabetes too.
Once weekly Trulicity is proven to help lower A1C, and it can help you lose up to 10 pounds. Trulicity is for type 2 diabetes. It isn't for people with type 1 diabetes. It's not approved for use in children. Don't take Trulicity if you're allergic to it. You or your family have medullary thyroid cancer or have multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2. Stop Trulicity and call your doctor right away if you have an allergic reaction, a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, changes in vision, or diabetic retinopathy. Serious side effects may include pancreatitis. Taking Trulicity with sulfonylurea or insulin raises low blood sugar risk. Side effects include nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, which can lead to dehydration and may worsen kidney problems. Ask your doctor about once weekly Trulicity.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places in the U.S.
We need to reduce plastic waste in the environment. That's why at America's beverage companies,
our bottles are made to be remade.
Not all plastic is the same. We're carefully designing our bottles to be 100% recyclable, including the caps.
They're collected and separated from other plastics,
so they can be turned back into material that we use to make new bottles. That completes the circle and reduces plastic waste.
Please help us get every bottle back.
Tonight, the Fed making a major move, announcing the biggest interest rate hike in nearly 30 years, 0.75 of a percentage point, just in one fell swoop, and signaling that another increase could come in just a few weeks next month. It comes as the average American household is paying $460 more per month for just the same things, that they buy every month than they were a year ago. That's according to Moody's Analytics. And costs for everything are going up. Mortgage rates are nearing 6%. I mean, you're seeing a doubling in some of these things already. Up front now, Lizanne Saunders. She is the Chief Investment Strategist at Charles Schwab. And Lizanne, I appreciate your time. So this is, a dramatic rate hike from the Fed. There's no other way to put it. 0.75 of a point is the largest in nearly 3 decades. So that gets us all the way back to 1994. And in a sense, this is a move of desperation, right? I mean, the situation got out of control. And they're using the blunt tool that they have because it's all they have. It's moving too fast, and they just have no other choice. What is the impact going to be on people?
Well, you're right. It is a blunt tool, monetary policy, and the Fed concedes all they can do is try to tackle the demand side of this inflation problem. They can't wave a wand and bring down energy prices or even free up labor supply. So they have to focus on the demand side. And what's interesting is the move to 75 and what was in the Fed statement today reinforces that although the Fed operates with the so-called dual mandate of focusing on price stability, their word for inflation, and the labor market, they clearly have their sights primarily on bringing inflation down. And they wanted, I think, to just front end load the necessary medicine in order to bring down the demand side of the economy, which again is the only thing that they can directly control with monetary policy.
So as part of this, the chairman of the Fed, Powell, says that he expects a soft landing for the economy, which is, he said hopeful a recession will be avoided. Okay, that is not what most economists say. I know that you disagree with that. I guess I understand why they're saying it, but, how does he even make that argument?
So the summary of economic projections, which came out in conjunction with the announcement today, if you do some of the simple math of where even the Fed projects things like the unemployment rate to go, the math is such that that's very recessionary. It would not be, of course, customary for the Fed to talk about that bluntly, but Powell sort of hinted that it's going to be a tough needle to thread. Even before today's announcement, I've had the sort of recession case as the more likely outcome, and unfortunately, the nature of how recessions are decided on and how ultimately they're dated, and that's done by the NBER, the National Bureau of Economic Research, is such that not only is recession more likely, it's possible that we're already in one, based on the fact that step one of the process around recessions is for the NBER to say, okay, we're in one. That's clearly when the environment is deteriorated. Step two is to date by month when it started. And what they do is they go back to the peak in the aggregate data that they're looking at. So that's why if you look at a snapshot in time at recession's beginnings, the data actually looks pretty good. You just don't know at that point that we're about to go from the peak to a level. So if we don't get a lift in growth from here, it's possible. It's not my base case, but just understanding the mechanics of how recessions are decided could put us in that situation.
Could already be there. All right, Liz Ann, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Good to see you.
All right, you too. And next, Ron DeSantis. He now has a staggering $112 million in the bank for his re-election as governor of Florida. Who should Democrats fear more, the Florida governor or the former president? And Biden providing Ukraine with another $1 billion, bringing the total amount of assistance since the war started to $5.6 billion. How much more will the U.S. give?
Bipolar depression. It made me feel trapped in a fog.
This is art inspired by real stories of bipolar depression.
I just couldn't find my way out of it.
The lows of bipolar depression can take you to a dark place. Latuda can make a real difference in your symptoms. Latuda was proven to significantly reduce bipolar depression symptoms, and in clinical studies had no substantial impact on weight.
This is where I want to be.
Call your doctor about sudden behavior changes or suicidal thoughts. Antidepressants can increase these in children and young adults. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Report fever, confusion, stiff or uncontrollable muscle movements, which may be life-threatening or permanent. These aren't all the serious side effects.
Now, I'm back where I belong.
Ask your doctor if Latuda is right for you. Pay as little as $0 for your first prescription.
We're Carvana, the company who invented car vending machines and buying a car 100% online. Now we've created a brand new way for you to sell your car. Whether it's a year old or a few years old, we want to buy your car. So go to Carvana, enter your license plate, answer a few questions, and our techno wizardry calculates your car's value and gives you a real offer in seconds. When you're ready, we'll come to you, pay you on the spot, and pick up your car. That's it. So ditch the old way of selling your car and say hello to the new way at Carvana.
Open Talenti and raise the jar to gelato made from scratch. Raise the jar to all 5 layers. Raise the jar to the best gelato you've ever tasted. Talenti, raise the jar.
Women have to overcome more obstacles to reach the top. It's made them fiercely determined and more innovative. Just because they can navigate the obstacles doesn't mean they should have to. Citi is committed to investing in opportunities for 10 million women globally by 2025.
Come on, Percy.
Yeah, let's go. On a trip. Book with Priceline. You save more so you can woo more.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah, feel the savings. Priceline, every trip is a big deal.
We have a dog and a cat. They leave traces of hair with their shedding all over the house. And I want to make sure that the air quality is good for my kids. Filtree filters give me a sense of relief and peace of mind.
Working in the food business is hard.
It's gonna be a ride.
But working in food with your significant other?
You forgot to plug in the cooler last night.
Just because we're in a relationship does not mean I won't fire you. Series premiere, Me or the Menu, June 30th at 10 on Food Network.
Well, the scene is set.
It's the toughest test that you face all year.
That's trouble.
Mentally, it's just the biggest grind possible.
It's like playing the hardest hole of your life 18 times.
Hopefully you're still standing. I dreamt of winning this tournament.
Unreal performance. Another one has landed. U.S. Open champion.
The U.S. Open on NBC, USA, and Peacock.
Imagine your dream room. Would it be filled with colorful textures? Maybe lighting and fine decor? Make your dream room a reality at Design Plus Gallery. With an ever-evolving inventory of curated, one-of-a-kind pieces, Design Plus makes luxury shopping economical and sustainable. And that equals total dream room satisfaction. Find value, find quality, and find the unexpected at Design Plus Consignment Gallery.
I'm Whitney Wild at the Supreme Court, and this is CNN.
Tonight, Republicans say they have found their blueprint for success after flipping a House seat in South Texas. Mira Flores defeating Democrat Dan Sanchez, eating into the Democrats' slim majority in the House, which is now at just 10 seats. And in a memo obtained by CNN, the Republican Party says, quote, Flores' victory is proof that Republicans have a winning message with Hispanic voters and that no Democrat is safe in the current political environment. Boris Sanchez is out front.
A historic victory in South Texas, signaling a potential political realignment. Republican Mayra Flores flipping a long-held Democratic seat in a special election, winning more than 50% of the vote, beating her Democratic rival by more than 7 points, and becoming the country's first Mexican-born member of Congress. The GOP's first House pickup since Democrats took control of Congress in 2020, coming in one of the most Hispanic areas of the country. 85% of the district's residents are Latino, and Flores' victory is being touted by Republican leadership as a blueprint for success.
I was born in Burgos, Tamaulipas, Mexico, but at 6, we immigrated to the RGV. We grew up modest, working in the cotton fields. Honest pay for honest work.
Running a pro-Trump, anti-abortion, and pro-Second Amendment campaign, Flores touted her husband's experience as a Border Patrol agent to call for a crackdown on immigration in a district that runs more than 80 miles along the Mexican border. Flores also used several QAnon-related hashtags in some of her social media posts, though she later disavowed the conspiracy theory, telling the San Antonio Express-News, quote, I've never been supportive of it. CNN reached out to Flores' campaign for comment. She has not yet replied.
We have to state the facts that under President Trump, we did not have this mess in this country.
Though President Biden won nearly 2/3 of Latino voters nationwide in 2020, former President Trump outperformed expectations.
But the question was whether those gains with Hispanic voters were specific to Trump. The special election in Texas gave us a specific piece of evidence that the gains Republicans are making aren't necessarily tied to Trump and could be part of a broader trend away from Democrats and toward the Republican Party.
When Democrat Filemon Vela announced his resignation in March, Republicans thrust more than $1 million into ads for Flores, both in English and Spanish.
I've always said South Texas is Republican, they just don't know it.
National Democrats declined to spend heavily in the race, partly because Flores will have to run again in November, when the newly drawn 34th district will be more friendly to Democrats.
While I think it's going to be difficult for her to win re-election in a reconfigured district that is more Democratic, I think this sends a larger message that Republicans do have an opportunity to gain ground with Hispanic voters, and that has the potential to give them opportunities in other districts that aren't as Democratic.
And Aaron, I've been speaking to Republican strategists about this dynamic going back to 2020, and they are bullish on this. They're practically salivating at their opportunity with Latino voters, because if you go back a decade to 2012, after Mitt Romney lost, they did this autopsy that made clear that Republicans struggle demographically. They have an aging voting base, and they see this as their best opportunity to win, especially going into 2024. So you're looking at states like Florida, Colorado, Nevada, even New Mexico could be in play for them.
Wow. All right. Well, they did the autopsy, spent the time. All right. Thanks so much, Boris, with that report. And I want to go now to Xochitl Hinojosa, former DNC communications director, who is from the district that Flores just won, and Scott Jennings, CNN political commentator and former senior advisor to Mitch McConnell. So, Xochitl, let me start with you. You hear Boris giving the important context here. Okay, she's got to run again in November, and the district's shifting, which Democrats use to dismiss this victory. But obviously, Republicans see it very differently. How big of a red flag is this loss for Democrats?
Well, this district is not necessarily a red flag because it will turn blue in November. These were old redistricting lines. The new redistricting lines is a plus 15 towards Dems. What I will say, though, is that Republicans are taking a victory lap, and they're taking a victory lap on 7% turnout. This wasn't a persuasion issue. This was a turnout issue. It's not that Hispanic voters turned out for Republicans the way that they claim that they are, and they believe that this will translate in places like Nevada and Arizona. This is the fact that Democrats didn't actually spend enough money to turn their people out. And that's what the red flag is. The red flag is when you're a party in power, you have to motivate your voters, motivate your base, and give them a reason to turn out. And you have to spend that money in order to turn out Hispanic, Black voters, women, young voters. And they didn't do that in this election.
Okay, Scott, to the point that Xochitl just made, 7% is bad. I mean, even here in New York, where turnout is usually abysmal, I mean, that is bad. That's like one of the lowest turnouts I've ever heard. So what do you say to her point, right, that this is a turnout story, not a persuasion story about Hispanic voters?
Well, I agree. It is a turnout story. And the story is Democrats who usually vote Democrat have no interest in turning out right now. I mean, that's how bad it is. In an 85% Hispanic registered district that's gone for Obama, that's gone for Clinton, that's gone for Biden, Democrats stayed home. And the Hispanics who voted there, I agree it was a low turnout election, but the Hispanic voters who came out wanted to vote Republican. And so the big story here isn't about the House Republican majority, which I think we're going to pick up with or without this district. The story is it true that what we're seeing in polling can come to life in a real-life situation? Are Hispanics who are polling more Republican gonna vote Republican? And I think we saw some proof of concept here. So to me, the story isn't really about this Texas district. It's about the Nevada Senate race, the Arizona Senate race, the Colorado Senate race, and all these other places that have Hispanic voters who aren't woke, but they are broke, and they're mad as hell, and they're fixing to do something about it.
So I want to let's kind of broaden this out a little bit. Tesla CEO Elon Musk says he voted for Miraflores in Texas. Everyone may remember, right? He now has that as his residency. He said it's the first time that he has voted for a Republican. And then today he responded to someone on Twitter saying he's now leaning towards the Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for president in 2024. Ron DeSantis came out and responded to that today. Here he is.
Elon Musk. So what I would say, I'm focused on 2022, but with Elon Musk, what I would say is, I welcome support from African Americans. What can I say?
Right, Scott, that's the joke line that he makes. Elon Musk, of course, is from South Africa. But look, he raises a point. There's a lot of buzz about DeSantis. I mentioned the, $120 million re-election pool that he has. That's for governor of Florida. Does he translate into a serious threat to Trump right now nationally, Scott?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're somebody who thinks we've got to move on from Trump, but you want some of what Trump represented, the fighting spirit, taking on the media, having all the right enemies in the progressive left, then DeSantis checks a lot of those boxes, but he doesn't carry a lot of the same baggage. He doesn't have the baggage of Washington. He doesn't have the baggage of January 6th. He doesn't have, a lot of what comes with Trump. So he is somebody that people love because he has candidly all the right enemies. And Republicans love Florida. They think he's led it in a fashion that they would love to see someone lead this country. So now, what's holding DeSantis back? If he plus 8 or 9 other people run in the Republican primary against Trump, then fragmentation of the field becomes Trump's best friend.
Right. Now, of course, there are plenty of Democrats in Florida who love that Ron DeSantis kept Florida open. Not the same thing as voting for him. But obviously, it's just a point, Sochi, that, he's a complicated guy in some ways. And when you look at it, who as a Democrat would you rather run against, Trump or DeSantis?
Well, I mean, I think that they both are very problematic. And you've heard President Biden say before that he wouldn't mind running against Trump again. And I think that is, some of what a lot of people in our party believe. At the same time, DeSantis also has a record. And one thing that came out today that you've reported on is the fact that children under 5 are going to get vaccinated soon, but yet Florida hasn't necessarily pre-ordered those vaccines for those children. So he has a record, and Democrats will use that against him.
Sochi, Scott, thanks both. Appreciate it. And next, the U.S. providing Ukraine with another $1 billion in aid as Zelensky pleads for more weapons and says it is literally life or death as the 200 Ukrainians are dying a day on the battlefield. How many weapons can the U.S. provide? Plus, it's one of the most dangerous places in the world to be a journalist, a place where just reporting on a crime can get you killed. And tonight, we'll take you there.
The LG Cord Zero all-in-one tower with auto empty. The first stick vacuum that automatically empties. Zero dust, zero worries.
So this is the Meta Portal Plus, a smart video calling device that makes working from home work. It syncs with your favorite VC apps, so you'll never miss a meeting, and neither will she. Meta Portal, make working from home work for you.
You have an alarming number of puppets.
I sell them online.
Let's make this puppet biz legit. You are good. LegalZoom. Now you're in business.
She's feeling the power of Listerine. He's feeling it. Yep, them too. It's an invigorating rush, zapping millions of germs in seconds. For that one-of-a-kind whoa, which leaves you feeling Listerine. Feel the whoa.
So I'm a beachside hotel. As you can see, I'm pretty relaxed. I'm looking for someone who likes sand and sun. If you have kids, I'm great with kids. So yeah, that's me.
Bring your eyes into the spotlight with Lumify eye drops. Lumify dramatically reduces redness to help your eyes look brighter, wider, and more luminous, radiant, vibrant for up to 8 hours. Lumify. You won't believe your eyes.
So ashamed I overpaid for this used car. I've decided to go undercover.
Remember, if you don't see me, you're not seeing the most accurate price. Shop at Carfax. You won't have to overpay on a used car again. Shop millions of great deals at the all-new Carfax.com.
Fishing helps ease my mind. Kind of like having Liberty Mutual. They customize your car insurance so you only pay for what you need. Whoa! Minions are biting today.
Minions, The Rise of Gru, in theaters July 1st.
Hey! The CDC has described sleep deprivation as a public health epidemic. And yet, Mark Wahlberg still wakes up at 2:30 a.m. to work out because those Wahlburgers aren't going to flip themselves.
Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, all new Thursdays at 10 on TBS and the app.
Where I live.
When you need help, it's great to be in sync with customer service. A team of reps who can anticipate the next step. Genesis technology is changing the way customer service teams anticipate what customers need. Because happy customers are music to our ears. Genesis, we're behind every customer smile.
Juneteenth, a global celebration for freedom, Sunday at 8 Eastern, only on CNN.
Tonight, the U.S. announcing another $1 billion in military aid will be sent to Ukraine, and that includes howitzers, tactical vehicles, and coastal defense systems. And that would bring the total U.S. aid to $5.6 billion to Ukraine since the start of the war about 100 days ago. And it comes as top U.S. General Mark Milley warns that Ukrainians are indeed losing ground in the east.
I wouldn't say it's a inevitability. But I would say that the numbers clearly favor the Russians. In terms of artillery, they do outnumber, they outgun and outrange.
Outnumber, outgun, and outrange. Out front now, John Kirby, National Security Council Coordinator for Strategic Communications. Admiral, I appreciate your time. So let's just start here with the aid today. Pentagon announcing another $1 billion in military aid. So as I said, that brings the total to $5.6 billion since the beginning of the war. Ukraine says it could go on for another year. How much is the U.S. prepared to spend and send in the context of the American inflation crisis and economic pressures at home?
Well, sure. Look, it's a key priority for the president. He had a chance to talk to President Zelensky just this morning to get an update from the president about the battlefield himself, and also to talk to President Zelensky not only about what we were providing in this next tranche, but also additional capabilities that President Zelensky feels he might need going forward. We're going to meter these out over time and do as much as we can for as long as we can. And right now, we still just got now $40 billion from Congress. This is the first tranche announced inside that $40 billion total package. Not all 40 is for security assistance. So we still have quite a ways to go here, and we'll just take it as it comes. That's why, quite frankly, Aaron, that we're metering these out over time so we can be in lockstep with the Ukrainians in the moment, trying to meet the needs that they have on the battlefield.
So I understand what you're saying. I think it's important, right, that there's sort of more to come. You have a runway. The context here, of course, is President Zelensky, despite his gratitude for this, and he's made that very clear, has been begging for weapons in recent days. And he's been really specific in he wants howitzers, 1,000 howitzers. He warned last night that Western military aid has to come quicker. On Monday, he said, and I quote him, only a sufficient number of modern artillery for Ukraine will ensure our advantage. He just continually calls for this. And as I said, he's called for 1,000 howitzers. And these numbers are stunning. They do dig into the U.S. supply.
Sure.
How much can the United States realistically provide of the wish list that Zelensky has?
What we are trying to do is work with the Ukrainians in real time, Aaron, to determine what their capabilities are, what they're using, what they need, and what we can provide in the United States. But, you know, it's not just the United States. And so, yes, we have provided an extraordinary amount of security assistance in an unbelievably fast pace. But just today in Brussels, the Secretary of Defense was meeting with 50 other nations about security assistance that they are now willing and able to provide in various forms and formats, of course. But it's not just the United States. The entire international community is really trying to come to Ukraine's aid. Now, how long can all that last? How long will the war last? Nobody can be sure right now. We know and we predicted that the fight in the Donbass was going to be a slog, that it was going to probably stretch this war out many months. And it seems as if that's bearing fruit now. This is a part of the country where both armies know well. Both armies have been fighting over it since 2014, and it really is largely an artillery fight. So we're focused really in the moment, trying to help them as best we can in the conditions that they're seeing on the ground. And it's, again, not just us. Other nations are also digging deep and trying to provide security assistance.
One final question on a separate point I want to ask you, Admiral, is about the president's upcoming trip to Saudi Arabia. That travel, I know, is being planned, and he's going to meet in some capacity, you've said, with the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, known as MBS. Of course, as you know, it comes after Biden vowed to make the kingdom a pariah, his word, during the 2020 campaign. And he spoke very passionately about it and very genuinely. It was clear what he felt as a person when he was running. He specifically said that MBS, that he believed had directly ordered the killing and dismemberment of Jamal Khashoggi. I spoke to someone in the president's own party who is criticizing this decision to go to Saudi now. He represents the district where Jamal Khashoggi lived. It's Congressman Jerry Connolly, and here's what he said.
I believe President Biden was right when he was candidate Biden. I mean, a man was murdered by the number 2 official in a foreign government. That can't be acceptable in terms of U.S. interests or U.S. foreign policy, and it ought not to be acceptable to the President of the United States.
Admiral, can you shed any light on the conversations or who convinced President Biden to change his view on this so dramatically?
The president, when he became president, first of all, even as a candidate, obviously he took the murder of Jamal Khashoggi very seriously. And when he became president, he carried that thought process into the Oval Office with him. He published and declassified the intelligence community's report on the murder, and he put in place the Khashoggi ban, which now have been used some 70 times against countries who would pressure critics who are living in other countries. And he has put in other accountability measures such as sanctions. So he took this very seriously at the outset. And we said at the time, Aaron, that we want to recalibrate the relationship with Saudi, but we don't want to rupture it. And we have to remember that Saudi Arabia is a key strategic partner in a vital region of the world in which we have significant national security interests of our own: counterterrorism, the war in Yemen, climate change, and of course, oil production in today's environment. So there's a lot of business that the president believes needs to still be done in the region. Now, he's going primarily for the Gulf Cooperation Council Summit, which will be in Riyadh. Saudi Arabia is hosting it, so that's the impetus for the trip. He will have a bilateral meeting, of course, with King Salman and his team, which will include the Crown Prince. But there's an awful lot of significant national security interests at stake here for the United States, and that's why the president is making this trip.
All right, Admiral, thanks so much. I appreciate your time.
You bet.
And next, we're going to take you to a place where just reporting the news can cost you your life, and it's cost many theirs. An historic flooding shutting down all entrances to Yellowstone National Park. Could the park be shut down for the rest of the summer?
Pesky leaks? Gorilla Waterproof Patch and Seal Spray, of course. Seals out water, air, and moisture, indoors and out. For the toughest jobs on planet Earth. Available in spray, liquid, and tape.
Hybrid work is here. It's there. It's everywhere. But for someone to be able to work from here, there has to be someone here, making sure everything is safe, secure, consistent. So log in from here or here, assured that someone is here, ready to fix anything, anytime, anywhere, even here. That's because nobody, and I mean nobody, makes hybrid work work better. Cisco, the bridge to possible.
Trading isn't just a hobby, it's your future. So you don't lose sight of the big picture, even when you're focused on what's happening right now. And Thinkorswim is right there with you to help you become a smarter investor. With an innovative trading platform full of customizable tools, dedicated trade desk pros, and a passionate trader community sharing strategies right on the platform. Because we take trading as seriously as you do. Thinkorswim by TD Ameritrade.
Making friends again, Billy?
I like to keep my enemies close.
Guys, excuse me. I didn't quite get that. I'm hard of hearing.
Oh, hey, don't forget about the tense music, too.
Would you say tense?
I'd say suspenseful.
Aren't they the same thing?
Can we move on, guys? Please.
Alexa, turn on the subtitles and dim the lights.
Okay, dimming the lights.
You had me at Allison 10-speed transmission. Features available on GMC Sierra Heavy Duty. Premium and capable. That's professional grade from GMC.
So this is the Meta Portal Plus, a smart video calling device that makes working from home work. It syncs with your favorite VC apps so you'll never miss a meeting, and neither will she. Meta Portal. Make working from home work for you.
Time. It's life's most precious commodity, especially when you have metastatic breast cancer. When your time is threatened, it's hard to invest in your future. Until now. Kisqali is helping women live longer than ever before when taken with an aromatase inhibitor or fulvestrant in HR-positive, HER2-negative metastatic breast cancer. Kisqali is a pill that's proven to delay disease progression. Kisqali can cause lung problems or an abnormal heartbeat, which can lead to death. It can cause serious skin reactions, liver problems, and low white blood cell counts that may result in severe infections. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including breathing problems, cough, chest pain, a change in your heartbeat, dizziness, yellowing of the skin or eyes, dark urine, tiredness, loss of appetite, abdomen pain, bleeding, bruising, fever, chills, or other symptoms of an infection, a severe or worsening rash, are or plan to become pregnant or breastfeeding. Avoid grapefruit during treatment. Your future is ahead of you, so it's time to make the most of it with Kisqali. Because when you invest in yourself, everyone gets the best of you.
What's going on?
It's a farmer's policy perk. Get farmers and you could save money by doing nothing. Just be claim-free on your home insurance for 3 years.
That's really something.
Get a whole lot of something with farmer's policy perks.
Bravo! That's our son!
We should.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
It's one of the most dangerous places in the world to be a journalist. And already this year in Mexico, 11 journalists have been murdered just for doing their jobs. 11 people murdered for doing their jobs. It is on track to be one of, if not the, deadliest years on record. Matt Rivers is out front.
Tijuana, Mexico. In a country plagued by homicide, this city stands out. Nearly 800 murders already this year, say state officials, which means the people reporting on those crimes are busy. This we get to see firsthand, meeting up well after dark with freelance journalist Arturo Rosales. It's not long before we're off to what police say is a murder scene.
Algunas veces tienes miedo de tu trabajo porque estás trabajando en situaciones muy complicadas.
Sí, principalmente en zonas muy conflictivas.
Sí.
Dangerous neighborhoods like here in Los Alamos, where a body was found left in the street. Arturo gets to work, snapping photos and going live on Facebook.
Hola, ¿qué tal, amigos, seguidores?
He just describes the basics: time, location, manner of death. In a city like Tijuana, where murders are often linked to organized crime, even just reporting the facts can be deadly. Margarito Martinez was a well-known crime reporter in the city, a happy guy with a quick wit and a big smile. He was killed outside his home earlier this year.
Un gran amigo.
A best friend. He taught me everything I know. Jesus Aguilar is a journalist too, one of Martinez's best friends. They worked together at countless murder scenes, and Aguilar worked at Martinez's too.
Me tocó verlo.
I had to see it, he says. I had to see it. It's what we do. We cover homicides. Now I witnessed his.
Y se va a seguir.
Prosecutors detained 10 people for the crime, though none have been formally charged. Authorities say those detained have ties to organized crime, but haven't given an exact motive for the killing. Martinez's death? Tragically not that unusual in Mexico. 11 journalists have been killed so far this year, according to human rights group Article 19, a number the Mexican government disputes as too high.
No solo eso.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador says his government is committed to protecting journalists.
A diferencia de antes,
the difference from before, he says, is that in all these homicides there have already been people detained and there is no impunity. But that is simply not true. The government's own statistics show that more than 90% of crimes in Mexico go unsolved.
¿Que le molestó?
For Sonia de Anda, herself a Tijuana journalist, it creates a morbid reality.
cualquier amenaza a un periodista.
She says whatever threats, obstacles to their work, whoever kills a journalist, there are no consequences because we live in a country of impunity. The Mexican president also routinely attacks journalists he doesn't like as enemies, often claiming coverage that is critical of him is really just an attack on the Mexican people. Critics say comments like those contribute to the violence journalists face.
¿Cuántos compañeros han sido asesinados?
How many journalists have been killed, he says? A whole lot. That's the truth. That uncertainty, the danger surrounding this job, is with Arturo Rosales as he drives around Tijuana each night.
No hay mucha confianza en el gobierno.
He says there's not much confidence in the government because there is no protection.
Esto se registra sobre la calle.
Arriving at our last scene of the night, Arturo goes through the motions, and we find out what happened.
The driver of that car right there that's now on its side, he was shot while actually driving the car. That would make this at least the 10th homicide that's been recorded in Tijuana in just the last 24 hours.
And Arturo says he'll keep being there to document as many as he can, even though he and all his fellow journalists know that they could go from covering victims to becoming a victim at any moment.
And Aaron, it's mainly local journalists who are being targeted here. It's people who live in the same communities that they cover. And it's basically meant that local news in many places across the country has been decimated. A free press in many places, another victim of violence throughout Mexican civil society.
Just stunning and incredible reporting. Matt Rivers, thank you. From Mexico City tonight. And next, historic flooding destroying homes in its path at Yellowstone. So what's next? How bad is it?
That's strange. A ton of Wi-Fi service tickets just rolled in, but I can't see any network issues.
Well, the light's on, so it must be fine.
They're saying the Wi-Fi sucks.
But the light is on.
You know it doesn't have to be this way, right?
Who said that?
Juniper's industry-leading AI gives you insight into exactly what's wrong and how to fix it before anyone knows there's a problem, removing all your blind spots.
Brilliant.
Who said that?
Baby got back.
Unlimited cashback match. Only from Discover.
You never know what opportunities life will send your way, but if you have moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis or psoriatic arthritis, Enbrel can help you say, I'm in for what's next. Ready to create a bigger world? I'm in. Ready to earn that world's greatest dad mug?
I'm in.
Care to play a bigger role in this community? I'm in. Enbrel helps relieve joint pain, helps stop permanent joint damage, and helps skin get clearer in psoriatic arthritis. And with less pain, you're free to join in. Enbrel may lower your ability to fight infections, serious, sometimes fatal events including infections, tuberculosis, lymphoma, other cancers, nervous system and blood disorders, and allergic reactions have occurred. Tell your doctor if you've been someplace where fungal infections are common, or if you're prone to infections, have cuts or sores, have hepatitis B, have been treated for heart failure, or if you have persistent fever, bruising, bleeding, or paleness. Don't start Enbrel if you have an infection like the flu. When opportunities come your way, be ready to say, I'm in for what's next. Ask your doctor about Enbrel.
Our stories, our journeys, they all live here.
Welcome to your favorite history book, honey.
I knew there had to be other kids like Jameson.
The place needs to be ready to open in 4. It needs to be running.
Wow.
Whether you're quietly brave or living out loud, always here, always welcome, always proud.
Yeah, you got that spark.
Celebrate all the stories with us on Discovery Plus.
Well, the scene is set.
It's the toughest test that you face all year.
That's trouble. Mentally, it's just the biggest grind possible.
It's like playing the hardest hole of your life 18 times.
Hopefully you're still standing. I dreamt of winning this tournament.
Unreal performance. Another one is landed. U.S. Open champion.
The U.S. Open on NBC, USA, and Peacock.
Carol, you okay?
I just heard the couch I ordered 3 months ago won't be delivered for another 4 months.
You should check out Design Plus Gallery. I bought a handcrafted table there, and it was delivered the next day.
That's great. Supply chain issues are delaying everything.
Design Plus Gallery has a huge inventory and open 7 days a week.
Well, looks like I have a couch delivery to cancel.
Find value, find quality, and find the unexpected at Design Plus Consignment Gallery.
Anderson Cooper 360, next on CNN.
Tonight, the Montana National Guard has carried out 87 helicopter rescues in the last 2 days as flooding in parts of the Yellowstone River breaks records, more than 16 feet. So those levels make this a 500-year flood in the formal categorization. The National Park Service says some sections of the park could remain closed for months. There's been significant damage in the town of Gardner, according to the sheriff there, where buildings have been swept up by the swells, and the images we see look apocalyptic. Local residents there are sheltering in place. Thanks for joining us. AC 360 starts now.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. When the House January 6th Select Committee reconvenes tomorrow afternoon, the focus will be on pressure Mike Pence may have been under from the former president to do his bidding on January 6th. We begin with a new photo of him from that day under immediate threat from the mob calling for his hanging. The photo was obtained by ABC News. It was taken in his ceremonial office just moments after he and his family were evacuated from the Senate chamber, according to ABC. Along with the former vice president, you see his brother, Congressman Greg Pence, his daughter Charlotte, and his wife Karen, who's closing the curtains. According to ABC, the photo was taken after the attackers had already breached the Capitol, some of them chanting